Each morning, real RSI setups are broken down with entry strategies and the technical reasoning behind every trade. This is RSI Trade of the Day with Verified Investing.
Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I've got some stocks that have been ripping to the upside that just seem unstoppable. So I'm going to go over where I see potential levels based on the current volatility in these particular stocks. There are some that are getting beaten down that have got key support levels. I'm going to go over a couple different trade setups that I had shown you in the past as well to show you how accurate the RSI can be when you combine them with other technical factors. So RSI is a relative strength indicator, but it's more than anything, it's a momentum indicator. Tells you the strength or the weakness in a particular stock, tells you when it can be overbought or even oversold into some key support levels, and then you could take advantage of the price action. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over GM. Here we go. Go over GM. I was mentioning GM at $70.04. It looked like it was starting to head up there earlier in the morning session. Then you had a slight fade, but nothing really gave me an indication that GM was going to continue lower or continue higher. I still have this upswing trend line with the RSI heading up above the 70. So now we're starting to get some volatility in the market or in GM, as well as an overbought condition. I love to see this in the charts. Again, you did have a slight fade, but now we're just kind of chopping sideways. So I still like the $70.04 level. It could go up a little bit higher, $70.25, but I still see GM as a max upside there. So if you're long GM, this is where I take profits. If you're interested in shorting it, if you're bearish on GM, this is where I would enter a short position. Now, if it does break this upswing trend line and you're bullish on GM, I would stop out of this trade and wait for a pullback to probably about 54. NXT has been ridiculously strong, you guys. So this had earnings, and it actually popped up to $109.70 or somewhere in that area. But look at how overextended on the RSI it can get and continue to push, create a little bit of down momentum on the RSI, even though this is not technically negative RSI divergence. And the reason why is because you had this peak here. This is the closing price of the NXT. Here was the peak of the RSI. Price action headed lower, and so did the RSI. So this is just standard. Earnings happened, and then it shot up. So for me, 109 to 110, this is the area I'm looking to short NXT. You're getting some volatility in this thing. So now all of a sudden, this is looking prime for a great top in the markets for net tracker. Look for that as a short. Intel, I had been going over this. I was really bullish on Intel there for a while. It looked like I was wrong on my analysis on reading the RSI. So it started to fade a little bit. Then all of a sudden earnings came out and it headed way higher. Look at what actually price action did going into earnings. It actually floated higher, and the RSI never got below the 30, indicating that there's a lot of buying pressure in this. And then what happened after hours, this thing shot up. So let me go ahead and show you where some potential support levels are on Intel. So here was what I was mentioning yesterday. The price action just creeping higher over the course of the day. RSI never got below the 30. No low pivots taken out. Let's go to the daily time frame on Intel. It could go up to $45.78. For me, that is the first level that I would take profits, and that's the first level I would short. You do have additional resistance. You have this gap fill coming up at $43, or a pierce of 44 is where you could start. But I think this is where Intel is going to go up to $45.78. That may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow, or Monday or Tuesday, but that's where Intel is telling me that the price action is going to go up to. SNDK, this is another stock that I've been going over. This thing had lacked volatility. So when a stock lacks volatility, the RSI doesn't necessarily give you an indication that anything's going to change. think of it as kind of a fear and greed index, right? So as the RSI and the volatility increase in this substantially, then you're instituting some volatility. You're instituting a mindset shift like, okay, so maybe now it's time for me to exit a trade. When you don't have any volatility, nobody's scared. Nobody wants to get in or out of a stock if it's just floating up or down. In this case, SNDK has been just continually floating up, putting in some topping tails, but because there's no volatility, the sellers are just, or the profit takers are just not there, and so it's going higher. Look at where I have an upside target. So this is what happened to the price action yesterday. The RSI headed a little bit higher, created a little bit of negative RSI divergence. Price action fell, but then it didn't drop too much, and then just this slow float. Look at what happened to the price action. Continued higher. I have an upside target of $175 to $180. Now you're starting to get some volatility. Now you have this surge in price. And so once you get super extended on the charts, 22% off of its last topping tail with some negative RSI divergence, getting some volatility, $175 to $180 is where I think SNDK is going to top. It could go up to 200. So this is where I would institute a short, $180, and then average in and add at $200 and wait for a decent pullback. You still have this upsloping trend line. So if price action gets below this upsloping trend line, then you could see price action getting down to $100. This would be a substantial drop on SNDK, but that's what can happen when you start getting volatility in a stock. APLD, this had a nice bounce off of the lows from the Thursday close, Wednesday close. Now it's heading up, higher. Look at APLD on the intraday chart. Let me go ahead and switch to the daily time frame, get rid of the extended trading hours so you can see what I was seeing yesterday. Price action just continued to float a little bit higher. RSI stayed pretty positive. It did start to drop and got below the 30, but it never took out really any pivots. So for me, this is telling me that APLD wants to go up. You do have a gap fill. So on a day trade basis, this gap fill at $35.91 is going to be a key technical level with volatility. So profit takers are likely to come in and reject this price right here, sending this lower. And that's where you want to be able to take advantage of that price action to the downside. So with this move from the lows, that's about a 23% move to the upside in just a couple of days. So if it does get up to that key technical gap fill level, you could look for about a 3 to 5% pullback. Now, they do have a slight gap fill above it. So right here at $36.64 would be another area that profit takers could come in. Now, it's not just profit takers. So any key technical level is got a couple combinations, right? So you have people who had entered that trade, and then we're expecting it to go much, much higher. And so when price action drops 20%, and then they get back to about their break even, what are people likely to do, especially if you're leveraged in a trade? You're likely to just exit the trade at a loss. And so that's combine that with some selling pressure for profit takers, it can really push that stock down substantially. All right, so look for that price up to $35.91. STM is a great example of how a stock that is beaten up can continue lower. And that's what happened through the morning session. You did have this nice pop initially, but then a just slow fade throughout the rest of the day. And then the RSI did try to get above the 70 a couple different times, but never took out any pivots. So I do anticipate STM heading down to this gap fill at $24.77. Look at this price drop. So from the highs all the way down to this low gap fill area at $24.77, this is telling me that price action is likely to bounce. Now, it could come back down and take out this low pivot just below $24.55. This would be a great opportunity to add to your position and really bring your average price in. So overall, STM for me is not only a good day trade level, but also looking like a good swing trade level. If you start breaking below that, look at this. You have a lot of gaps in this chart. So be cautious with this one. If on a 15-minute closing basis, it closes below $24.55, consider stopping out and looking for an additional level, possibly on Monday or going into Tuesday. All right, I got one more chart for you guys. LVS. LVS had a nice fade towards the end of the day, hit his couple key gap fill levels and with some substantial pullbacks. But look at price action. Price action throughout the entire morning just continued to float up. So if you go to the daily time frame, LVS could go all the way up to $58.05. So if I'm day trading this, $58.05 or even a pierce of that up double top is where I'm likely to get in for a day trade. I say day trade, look at the price action on LVS. It's still towards the lower ends of the charts, so it could go much higher. The RSI isn't quite above the 70, indicating that it's overbought. So this would be a day trade short level. You bust above that, and then you can make a move to the upside. So if you're bullish, that's the confirmation you want to see in LVS. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Every morning, the market is open at 8:45. Please make sure you're sharing this with your friends. Make sure that they're getting these key technical levels as well. And like, subscribe, follow, ring that bell, so that way you can get notified every time we go live. You want to stay tuned. Gareth Soloway is going to be going over the price action in the morning. It's a little bit of whippiness, so my trading game plan is going live in less than 4 minutes. And we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.